Reddeos presents r/AskReddit. If you enjoy the video, show your support by commenting, liking and subscribing to the channel. People who were childhood friends with a now celebrity, who were they and what were they like as a young person? My dad interned with Tom Hanks when he first started out at the Great Lakes Shakespeare Festival. He was always very kind and charismatic with everyone, and just a constant ball of energy. When his son Colin was born, he proudly showed him off to everybody. He was probably just days old. About 3 years ago, there was a reunion of all the Great Lakes interns. My dad went, not knowing if he was going to show up, and if he did, if he'd remember him. But not only did he show up, he approached my dad and remembered him by his full name. He is honestly just a really great man. Taylor Lautner would get mad when people called him Shark Boy in high school. Can't say I blame him. Edit, some SCV natives here. I went to high school with Pink. I was kind of shy, but a lot of my friends were better friends with her. She was alright. I remember her singing to herself a lot. Mike Myers went to a high school down the street from mine. We hung out with the same people. Charmingly funny and very humble. I haven't seen him for a very long time, but I do watch his interviews and he seems to be the same guy he was. I always loved it when he came on the TV wearing a Toronto Maple Leaf jersey. Happy he has done so well. He was a jokester and always good to people. Hasn't forgotten where he came from. That's endearing and rare. My uncle went to college with John Cena. He said he would walk down the dorm halls naked. My mom went to college with Bob Odenkirk, Better Call Saul guy. They were in the radio department together and apparently he was super funny. They also took shrooms together and I've been jealous of my mom ever since I heard that story. My old roommate went to high school with Jake and Logan Paul. He said it was when they were starting to get big on Vine, they started turning into complete. So nothing has changed. My grandma was neighbors with Al Capone. She casually told me that he would come over for coffee some mornings. House was on 72nd and Prairie. Edit update, visiting over my sisters. She tells me that on grandma's wedding day they went to a speakeasy. After a dance back at the table was an expensive bottle of champagne with a note attached from Al. Not me, but my father went to high school with Viggo Mortensen, Aragorn from Lata. He said he was a really nice guy from the couple times he met him, and that he totally understands how he went on to save Middle-earth. My dad is a huge Lata fan if you can't tell. I went to school with Sophie Turner, Sansa Stark. She was a couple of years below me, but I was in a few plays with her. She was just an average girl TBH, in every way. Really normal, didn't really stand out, but wasn't quiet or shy either. She never got the big parts in plays and wasn't even considered to be one of the good actors at our school, was always just a part of the chorus. Was quite surprised to hear she got a major part in a TV drama, seemed to come out of nowhere. My grandma went to high school with Ted Bundy. She said he was quiet and didn't really have any friends. My great-grandma, still alive, lived close to Elvis' home. They talked like 3 times. She literally thought he was the most annoying little. I lived in the same neighborhood as Eminem growing up. He was a few years older than me, but since we both kinda stand out, we ended up hanging out with the same people a few times before he got famous, though he was already locally well known. We weren't friends though. He was pretty serious and kinda seemed like a recluse, but definitely not afraid to speak his mind if he felt it necessary. Never exchanged more than sup though. Not me, but my aunt. She knew Snoop during high school, and at the time everyone there were getting into colors. She decided to join in, tied a bandana to her arm. Later in the day he took it from her, without a word. Turns out that people wearing her color were being hunted down. Overall, pretty cool dude. I hear he hasn't changed much. My cousin dated Filthy Frank in high school. She said he was a totally normal guy and that he was really funny and nice. One of my cousins went to school with 699 in. They weren't friends. I asked him what it was like. He told me that 699 in was just the same dumbass that he is today, and I'm not really surprised. I was best friends with Post Malone in high school, and he's pretty much the same person he was then in high school that he is now, just some more wild adventures, but his personality has been that same, and it's nice to see, with the fame and money, he stayed who he is. Fun fact, he used to be an indie music guy in high school, wore Hawaiian V-necks, high watertight black jeans, and Toms. Coolest, chilliest, and funniest dude you could have hung out with. New Ryan Lochte. Not much changed since he was a kid. Swims fast, thinks slow. I view him now as a teenager's mind in a middle-aged man's body, still doing things that don't make much sense. Went to school with several people in various royal families, European and African. They could never show in team sports photos or things like that for security reasons, but surprisingly there were no actual bodyguards required, at least not that I saw. They seemed pretty down to earth compared to all the other rich a-holes there. Edit, no, I can't help you with your emails from Nigerian princes. Don't know if this counts, but I went to the same junior high and high school as Jensen Ackles, Dean Winchester in Supernatural. All the teachers would talk about how nice he was and how he was going to make it big. Think he was already a regular on a soap opera by then. I finally saw him when I was in tech theater. He had come to see his sister in a high school play. He stayed to the end and looked so proud of her. The kid who wrote the Eragon series, Christopher Paulini, went to school a ways from here. I can't say I knew him, but it's rural Montana, so I ran into him a few times since nobody lives out here. He used to show up at our school promoting his book dressed in Renaissance fair style clothing. We all thought he was kind of a geek. He's worth like 30 mil now because of a book he wrote when the rest of us were still trying to figure out who to take to prom. What's funny is that I actually recognize a few characters and places in his books as being partly based on locals and the surrounding area. Edit, meant to say worth 30 mil but accidentally added an extra zero, it's been fixed. Went to high school with Neil Patrick Harris. He wasn't a bad dude, but wasn't humble in the least. He was still working on Doogie Howser. When he was at school, he wasn't allowed to be himself, surrounded by fans and others. He had the nickname of Drama Dork by some of the other cliques. He hasn't gone to one of the reunions. Also went with Freddie Prinze Jr. He was a cool dude, but hung out with guys that stroked his ego and bullied others. I was an unfortunate victim to that. He hasn't made it to a reunion yet either. Not a friend, but I knew Henry Cavill when he was a kid. He was sweet and reliable and generally a very nice person. Haven't seen him since around the era when he was taking roles in films like Hellraiser 8 because working as an actor isn't easy. Can't really imagine what it must be like to be the subject of the intense media gaze that goes with being a global celebrity. Went to school with the adopted grandson of Picasso. Not a celebrity but filthy rich. Was kinda even though. One of my high school bullies was on the first 6 episodes of Star Trek Discovery. He was a crewman on the bridge and had a couple close-ups. It really bothered me because he was the type of the person to ruthlessly make fun of geeks. By the time episode 7 aired I had worked through my feelings, but in retrospect, I'm super happy he doesn't get to go 32nd century. I went to school with Paris Hilton. She gave a bunch of dudes blowjobs but not me. My aunt was Zendaya's teacher in 4th grade. She says that she was a sweet girl. They saw each other at a meet and greet a while back, pretty nice. My younger brother was friends with Justin Bieber. I didn't know him super well, saw him here and there, but always stood out even before he was famous as he was the type of kid who would very loudly make fun of and bully others. I remember him being kicked off the city buses a few times for yelling at and being rude to mentally forward/physically disabled people along with just old people in general as well. All around my memory of him was that he was an My mom went to school with Portia de Rossi, Ellen DeGeneres' wife. She was a year younger than my mum and apparently a real bully. I went to school with and hung in the same circles as one of the current I guys. He was okay, we got along fine, though looking back, I can imagine it wasn't great for him. This was a fairly conservative small town in Missouri. No, he wasn't out then, or at least not in a public way. I grew up on the same street as one of the stars of Suits. I knew him as the kid who constantly played with his from on top of his pants. Medium light skin tone shrug. Went to elementary school with Justin Bieber. He was a total bully and a giant asshat, but for some reason he took a liking to me and invited me to all his birthdays. A funny memory I have is of him making fun of some kid on the stairwell and then tripping and falling down the stairs and then crying all the way to the principal's office. He has always been a total douche. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to comment, like and subscribe.